congratulations on the film. It's an absolutely fantastic film. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about where the idea for the film came about from the first place.
Sure. I live out near the Mojave Desert, or right on the edge of the Mojave Desert, and I grew up out here, and my kids are always making movies out here, little movies, and, it kind of came out of just desperation as an indie filmmaker of just wanting to shoot something else, and I would drive around out there, and, I would look at an old book I had about treasures that were buried out in the great Southwest. And, your mind just starts wandering. And I also kind of coupled that with, there definitely is some drug sort of stuff over the border with Mexico out there. And I just sort of put the two together and then sort of whipped in some Looney Tunes. And that's what I came up with.
The film has such an amazing look because it is filmed in the desert. What kind of challenges did you face filming in the desert? Like, it must be pretty harsh on some of the equipment that you were using.
For sure. And the other thing was that I hadn't really reckoned on initially. I did a lot of pre-production work out there by myself, just looking for locations, whatever it may be, whether it's a dry lake bed or a cave, or, just some of I thought we found some pretty good spots, but you've got to find a spot that a crew can actually get to.
Yeah.
I found an amazing mine that nobody could get to, and I found a lake bed that nobody could get to. So you kind of have to pick the best of both worlds and go, well, it's not as good as the mine I found, but I can get everybody there. So that was a major challenge, is finding locations that weren't, 3 hours out and 3 hours back, and that would work for the story.
Yeah. So how did you overcome some of that? Because I know in the past we've spoken to filmmakers who have had to film out on the ocean, and they've had to cut back the amount of crew that they've used so that they can fit them all on the boat. What kind of sacrifices did you have to make in order to make it work filming in the desert?
Yeah, that's a good question. We were a pretty small crew to begin with. It's a pretty scaled down movie, but you definitely are working with the light. You're working with the weather. We had some rain that we worked into the story, which worked out beautifully actually, in terms of that dry lake bed, which turned to water, which looks like a lake, and that fits right into the legend. The other thing was we had a lot of night shots, and with a small budget like this, you just can't afford a blimp to get up there and light the desert. So we actually went with day for night on all of our night stuff, and we loved the look of that. And so that was definitely something we had to figure out before we started shooting, and we used Fury Road, what they did with Fury Road, to get that blue look. We tried to copy that, and I was pretty psyched with what we got.
Yeah. David, I have to ask, going back to the writing process, a lot of people seem a bit surprised that the movie's got elements of comedy in there when they expect it to be a bit of a harsh movie. When did that come into the process that you wanted to put a little bit of comedy into this film as well?
Well, I think it was there from the beginning. My son and I, who ended up playing one of the Lost Boys, we used to do this thing at the dinner table with my family where we would do the orc scene, which the two main characters, Fink and Moses, they're having a haircut, and the one character tells him about how he got fired, on the set of Lord of the Rings, and it's a ridiculous scene. But my son, who was young at the time, we used to ad-lib at my dinner table in front of my family, and I would pretend to be the director, and he would pretend to be the orc. And we would just get them laughing so hard, and at that point I thought, I got to put this in this movie, and I got to make these characters just kind of silly like that, and then throw in the more dramatic effects. But I think from the beginning I knew, look, this is going to be a comedy. It's going to be absurd and yet done with great conviction. I kind of dig that, just making people wonder, wait, are they doing this on purpose or are they just crazy?
Yeah. So for our listeners out there who haven't seen the film, tell us a little bit about Fink as a character and how you prepared to play that role.
Fink is this guy that's been, he's been, living with his best friend out there in the desert for 30 years, looking for the lost ship of the desert. He's a bit grumpy because he's been in love since high school with this girl who he just adores. And you find out that the girl really never even knew he existed. And so that tells you a little bit about Fink. He's living really in a dream world, and he's taking for granted the best thing in his life, which is his best friend Moses, who is like, just the salt of the earth, best guy around, loves Fink with all of his heart, would do anything for him. And Fink takes that for granted, and he has to make a decision on, of what is important towards the end of the movie.
Yeah. The casting was absolutely perfect for Moses playing your best friend. Tell us a little bit about how you discovered David to play Moses.
All right, that's an easy one. David Wysocki is my best friend.
Yeah.
So we've been best friends for 30 years. He was in my first film, Joe and Joe, and he was a big soap actor in LA. And we just kept saying we've got to do a movie where it's just you and me, where we capitalize on this chemistry that we have, where we're just always laughing. The first day we met, we started shooting with a little video camera, just goofy little movies. So we've been fooling around with stuff like that for 30 years, and what a treat to get to shoot a movie about best friends with your best friend. I mean, that really was frosting on the cake.
Yeah. Was there any hesitation there? Were you a little bit afraid about whether directing your best friend might have frayed the friendship a little bit at all?
I wasn't, because I had worked with him on my first film, and we kind of got all the jitters out on that one.
Yeah.
And so we were good to work with each other. Now, it was we didn't have a ton of rehearsal, and we did a lot of rehearsal over the phone. And initially, he was trying to get that orc voice. He was just saying, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And then one day it just clicked in, and he got it, and it was hysterical. So no, he was just an absolute joy to work with.
And how did you go about the rest of the cast? Because you've got some amazing people in there who put in some brilliant performances for you.
Oh, thank you, man. Look, this was a really low-budget movie, so it started with, we're just going to take what we can get. I mean, I put all my kids in it and my wife in it. Now, they grew up around films, so that's kind of cheating, but yeah, all my kids are in it. My wife's in it. She plays Joy Lynn Fairbanks, who I've been in love with all my life, and I have a rude awakening. But I used my kids' cousins. I found some people. Garrett Marchbank plays El Guapo. He was what a fun find he was, because he's just an absolute nut. And then the other guy that really stood out that I found through our production designer was Derek Severson, who plays the dancing killer. Just this 6'9" stunning guy who never says one word in the movie. Who, I had a guy who I was committed to. He was going to play the part, and my production designer Burns said, "Would you please just meet this guy?" And I walked into the room, and he stood up to shake my hand, and I said, "Okay, you got the part." I mean, he's such a presence, and that guy, watch for that guy's name. He's gonna be around for a while, I think.
Definitely. Now, we're all in lockdown at the moment, and that's made a lot of Hollywood nervous because films can't come out in cinemas. Does it actually help you with the release being a digital and DVD release that there are more people at home at the moment? There is more chance of people actually watching the film because they're trapped at home?
Boy, that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
It sure seems like that to me. I mean, I don't know about you, Dave, but I've been I watch a lot of movies anyway, but my kids and I have been watching movies practically every night, and my hope is that a lot of people are going to stumble across this and really enjoy it and pass it along to their friends. And, the other thing, just a quick note, is it's not in any way social. We're dealing with a lot of really heavy social and political issues right now in our world, and this has neither. This is just fun. It's silly. It's an adventure. is a bit of feel good to it. And so I'm hoping that all those things really pay off and are sort of a tonic to what we're facing every day, all of us, you know.
Yeah. Has lockdown meant that you've started working on your next project as well? Because that's all I'm finding I'm doing at the moment is watching movies, doing housework, and writing my next script. That's all I'm doing at the moment. Is that something that you've found that you've been able to do as well?
You know, I haven't done as much as I like. I was actually riding a tractor all day today, which I've never done before, and tearing up my yard. But you know, I am looking at Gold Dust 2, and I have written, before this thing happened, I started to write it, and now I am looking seriously at it. And of course, if you know, I'm probably halfway through it, and the great thing about it is we had such an amazing vibe. All the people that worked on it were just, you know what it is, Dave? We were out there in the desert trying to survive as well as make a movie. You know what I mean? It was like not just making a movie. We were just trying to survive in the Mojave Desert. And so it developed this amazingly tight camaraderie. And so everybody that was involved are like, look, if we do another one, I want in. From the production designer to the camera to the editing to the soundtrack, everyone. And so these guys are actually sending me ideas during this time, sending me snippets of music. If we do it, we could do this or what, etc. And that's exciting.
Definitely. Well, Dave, I cannot wait to see Gold Dust 2 as well. To wrap it up, is there anything you'd like to say to our listeners out there before they go and check out Gold Dust this weekend?
Oh, gosh. Stay safe and enjoy the movie. I think it's exactly what we need right now. Just a, you know, the other thing that's great is you can watch it with your kids, with your family, and it doesn't feel like a dumb family movie. It feels like just something fun. It feels like a silly adventure that you stumble across. And so that would be my advice to people, is just enjoy it and tell your friends and stay safe.
Definitely. Well, Dave, thank you so much for chatting to us today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we wish you all the best of luck with Gold Dust 2 as well.
Thank you, Dave. Pleasure talking to you as well. Thanks for taking the time.